Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salam. Hello. Thanks, Center for Governance Studies, for preparing this great event, conference, Bengal of Conference 2024. We are here to discuss about the search for peace in the Middle East. As we know, peace is very rare thing in the Middle East, and not only in Middle East, but rare in around the world. And many theories of international relations try to arise about peace in international system and international theory. For example, the realist theorists see peace as a rare thing, and balance of power is the way to reach it. But for example, liberalism, peace is not a very rare thing, and by making some institution in international system, states can reach peace. But as we know, that there is no institutions to make peace in the Middle East, and especially in the Persian Gulf region. And for this reason, we can see the intervention of great powers in the Middle East, and for this reason, the benefit, the interest of great powers push to region as a regional interest. Let me introduce two esteemed guests here, Mr. Dr. Professor Hadza Robby, professor from Department of International Relations, Islamic University of Indonesia, and Professor MuhammadAmirRana, President Pak Institute for Peace Studies from Pakistan. And at first, I would like to ask Professor Amir to answer this question: what's the main obstacle to reach in Middle East?
Yeah, thank you, Professor Jawad, and I'm glad to be part of the Bay of Bengal Conversation Initiative. And the theme is, I think, depict what is going on across the world as a fractured world. And as the chief advisor in his opening remarks today morning has said that we have not only to find the solutions for peace within the region, but for the global peace. And I think the Middle East is one of the critical region for where the most of the conflicts are emerging, which impacting mainly the Muslim world, from North Africa to East Asia. And this somehow is having impact on their politics, on their sociology, and at certain extent on their economic relationship. So in that context, I think this is what is going on right now in Palestine and the Gaza conflict, and what it has been expanded to Lebanon, and then how the Gulf states and the US trying to isolate Iran and trying to dismantle the groups to whom they associated as proxies of Iran. So this is all is impacting a lot, and the problem is that even after all these kind of the trigger for the tensions, there is no solution in sight yet, and neither we have seen in the past, and neither no. In my view, the only solution is that all the issues can be solved through the dialogue, and for the dialogue, we need a conducive environment, and this is, I think, the responsibility of the Muslim leadership, that they have to create this kind of environment for dialogue, and they can talk each other and to resolve the issue. If they will continue looking towards the west and towards the north, I think this is going to complicate the issue, and it will intensify the conflict. In Middle East, and in beyond Middle East.
Oh, thank you. And I would like to ask this question from you, Professor Hazam and Fazil Rabbi. What are the main obstacles for reaching peace in the Middle East?
Okay, first of all, thank you to Dr. Javad as moderator, and also thank you to the organizer of the Bengal Conversation. For me, one of the main obstacles to peace in Middle East is always the lack of commitment, and also of lack of consensus between the actors who are involved in the conflict. And this has caused conflict to be protracted in many places. In Syria, we have been looking into conflict that is extending from 2011 until very recently it's been resolving. But in the case of Israel and Palestine, what really makes this conflict is getting longer and longer is because some parties are willing not to solve the problem, but to lengthen the issue by making this issue as having religious nature and claiming that this issue should be solved by those people who are having religious ambitions to fulfill whatever they believe in. By this, I mean the Zionists and also their lobbyists in America and European politics. And this has caused the conflict to be extending for a very long period of time. So I think in order for us to have a better situation in Middle East, all parties from the Palestinian side and also from the Israeli side need to have new consensus. What is the new consensus? New consensus needs to be focusing on the plight of the Palestinians, on the plights of the oppressed people, not just in Palestine, but also those people who are facing embargoes in Iran, people who are facing Israeli aggression in Lebanon. So far, Israel has been extending their aggression way beyond Palestinian borders. And this is something that risks security of all people living in the Middle East, regardless of their religion, regardless of their nationalities. We need to remember that new consensus has to be built entirely by the people coming from the Middle East, not to be intervened by a great power. This has to be done through a continuous dialogue that would end up in new consensus. And what I mean by new consensus is not focusing on the traditional solution that is often offered by the United Nations, that is two-state solution. In face value, we can say that two-state solution is the most pragmatic and one of the most easiest solution to be applied within the context of the Israel-Palestinian solutions. But we need to understand that even among the Israeli public, there's new discussion about how is it possible for the Palestinian and Israel to live together under one state instead of the two states, by focusing on how to build justice and also how to build equality amongst the citizens. That's the thing that we need to talk whenever we are talking about this Israel and Palestinian conflict and its impact on the broader Middle East.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
You focus on dialogue between regional countries to shape a forum to dialogue and reach peace, and from the way of mutual understanding. Yes, this is very idealistic approach and need to start from one standpoint. Do you think from which standpoint the state of region can begin the dialogue? Which issue they can gather and focus on it for starting the dialogue to reach peace?
Yeah, I think this is very important, critical question. And dialogue, it maybe seems very ideal, and we know the reasons. And we already have the many multiple forums for OIC, and even the Gulf countries, they have their own regional initiatives. But these issues haven't been resolved, and mistrust is one of the major factor behind that. We haven't able to be evolved any consensus there. So I think everything driven by the economic and political interest of the each nations, and This process can be initiated on the two level, and Professor Fadhli Robby has mentioned about the new consensus. I think for new consensus, maybe we need to invent the new forums to discuss the ideas. So usually most of the initiatives comes from the states, and we know the nature of the Muslim state. Most of them are very authoritarian, and they don't allow their citizens to have more interaction to come up with the solutions. Their think tanks have the less connectivity with each other. So maybe at first level, I think the Muslim world need to have the more interaction within its think tanks, the civil society, their religious communities, so they can think about and they can somehow build consensus or maybe a little pressure on their government. Yes, we need some solutions. Maybe then we can come up, force the states to use the all conventional platforms they already had developed, or to create a new, unique, or the dedicated platform addressing the crisis in the Middle East. This could be the solution in my view. Otherwise, if we will start looking toward, the Gulf states towards the US and the, Iran towards Russia and China, this will, each power, either this is the US, China, or Russia, they have their own interest. And the nature of the conflict basically define their interests, and things keep changing. And we have to decide our own interests. And the peace in Middle East is in our own interest. And as Pakistan is extended part of Middle East, and we mainly feel heat, and we also suffer because of the crisis whenever it started in Middle East.
Identity is very, very complicated issue in the Middle East, because as you mentioned, some beliefs that identities, and I mean Islamic identity, could not work as a catalyst for uniting regional states. But when we consider the high and low politics in the region, we can consider identity as a law politics in some cases, and some interpretation of Islam, such as jihadis, political Islam, prevent to reach a common interpretation of Islam that help to shape a forum for dialogue. Do you think identity is good platform to start dialogue or not?
If we are talking about the current state of Middle East political dynamics, especially in these days, we see that identity could be either the stumbling blocks or either be a big bridge between different parties. I must say that I appreciate the efforts that Iran and Saudi Arabia has been doing for past few weeks, because some of the high-level diplomats and also some of the high-level officials have been meeting together from Iran and Saudi Arabia to talk about the future of the peace in the Middle East, especially when it comes to the issue of Israeli and Palestinian conflict. I think when Sunni and Shia, despite of having different understanding of theology and also different understanding of identity, are coming together to discuss the plights of the Muslim Ummah, it would be better for all of the nations as well, because these two powers serves as the main advocates for the Muslim rights in the world politics. We know that there's more need for the to solidify the Muslim Ummah into one voice. And we've seen that in the OIC summit very recently in Riyadh. Many countries are calling for more strict measures against Israel, for more multipolar international system that would include more countries in Asia and Africa to involve in decision-making process on the global level. And this is something that could be orchestrated together by Iran and Saudi Arabia to call together upon the message of solidarity. And this is, what is it? Something that could be done on state level. On the non-state level, obviously, I agree also with Dr. Amir here about how we can always establish a platform. In fact, this is something that Indonesia has been doing for past few years. We've been inviting ulamas, we've been inviting religious scholars from both Sunni and Shia to formulate new ways on how to build global peace based on religious identity. So instead of looking religious identity as something that would separate us, that would cause religious conflict as now happened in Middle East, religious identity could be something that could address complex global issues such as environment and also issues like gender inequality, for example. And one of the largest Muslim organizations in Indonesia, Nahdlatul Ulama, has been doing tremendous effort in consolidating all of these voices and trying to formulate new solutions on how Islamic law and also Islamic thinking could actually contribute to those complex global issues.
Okay, thank you. I would like to move to a structural variable regarding peace in the Middle East. Many theories and many policy officials believes that power from changed or transited from the west to the east, and many theories believe this, and some of them believe we are now in transitional world order, and some others, such as for example Iranian establishment, believe that this order is established, and the nature of this order is like Cold War. And China and Russia are two poles in this new world order. Do you think with the new world order that is based on great power competition, this transitional order has a positive impact on peace in Middle East or not?
Yeah, so Professor, the great power competition is already going on, but rather is also in transition. And somehow the US is playing to unipolar, power in the world, and Soviet Union, China, and few other forces are trying to keep some balance, but the balance is still in the favor of the US. This is a problem. And why this is in the favor of the US? The reason that the most of the Muslim countries, and especially in the Middle East, they still look towards the US for finding the solutions. Not only finding the solution, they think that getting the all defense strategic assistance, this is crucial for them, and it can come through the US and through the NATO allies. So this, even for the this political power, basically the legitimacy they get from the US and Western bloc. So this is, I think, is a bit complicated, that the war order is still in transition. It hasn't been established yet. And the China has its own shortcomings and handicaps to become the global power and to challenge the US. Soviet Union, Russia was a Soviet Union, already we can consider as one of the defeated power, but which hasn't exhausted all its energy, still challenging the order. So this is a bit complicated, and maybe this is the reason that there is no other alternative for the Muslim world. They can rely on, not completely, they cannot completely rely on China. And that's why it's quite challenging for them to remain associated with the West, with the US, and while keeping few of their key interests with them, or to share it with other emerging parts. So this may be the quite challenging situation. But my friend from Indonesia just mentioned about the role of the Nahdlatul Ulama. I think this provide a very unique example for the Muslim world, and which is inspiring the Muslim societies from North America to South Asia. And this is also their approach is based on interaction and dialogue. And maybe the Muslim world, not alone, not Saudi Arabia alone, or Iran, or UAE, Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh alone, they can't do nothing. The reason that all Muslim states, they are medium-sized states. They are not large-sized states. And they can compete, they can register their path when they will be united. And when they will have some convergence of the common political, economic, and strategic interests. So how we can find it? Maybe Nudwa is doing a lot of work in the civil society, but this model can be adopted on political level among the Muslim states. Yeah.
Thank you. And Dr. Hadza Fadhli Robby, do you think the nature of new world order will positive impact on regional peace?
Yeah, as my previous colleague has said that the world is still transitioning. In fact, we still haven't had the exact form of the new world order because as Trump is getting elected and there's a lot of huge transformation happening across the globe, we are yet to see whether this new form of the world would be benefiting the West or the East or both. Yeah. But the thing is, whatever happens in the Middle East, sadly will always depending on how United States, together with Russia and China, would like to determine how the region would be controlled and managed, as what we've been previously witnessing throughout the Cold War. In fact, the issue as Israel and Palestine was largely decided through this great powers discussion. For example, the creation of the Sinai as a buffer zone in 1950s, how United Nations peacekeeper asked this situation there actually to to tackle and to buffer the Soviet Union influence in the Middle East and to make sure that no great powers are having direct kind of conflictual engagement in that region. And something like that could be seen also in the case of Gaza. I mean, like Gaza is not only a case of fighting between Hamas and Israel, it's actually fight between Western powers and also non-Western power in the sense that by supporting Israel through its armaments, United States is trying to establish its hegemony in Middle East and trying to retain it for a longer time period. We still didn't know how Trump would do things with Israel. Either he could give more armaments to Israel or he is doing some kind of limitations. We are not sure about that because he's been appointing some pro-Israeli secretary in his administration. And something that really worries me is that instead of stopping the conflict, he is just prolonging the conflict. So I might be a pessimistic, but I don't see that better future are coming to the Middle East. What we can do as a Muslim world here is to always to consolidate the force by not really aligning Muslim countries to the West and to the East. That's why being non-aligned is very important. This is a value that Indonesia has believed since the first years of independence, being non-aligned to either the West and the East, because we have our own capacity, we have our own creative forces to think about the global order. And this is why for Indonesia, it's always really important to establish a condition of multipolarity where everyone, regardless of their small or big size of their economy, could have a power to actually influence the decision-making process that happens in the global governance. That's all for me.
Simultaneously, the U.S. strategy in region is to pivot to China and contain China. And some see this issue as a positive for region and for the stability of the region. But simultaneously, we can see some factors. For example, empowering Israel and transition Israel from EUCOM to CENTCOM and make some military agreement with the Persian Gulf states. And in this era, United States want to lead, just support security order in the region, and not lead the security order in the region. So some believes that by withdraw the United States from the region and coming China to the region, and for example, the economic relation between China and the regional states, such as Iran, this kind of order can better work because of interdependency between China and Iran and other regional states. Do you believe we can witness Chinese order in the region? I would like you examine the military relation between China and regional state. Can we see security order that made by China for the region or not? China would like to free ride from United States order and just would like to have economic relation with the regional state.
Yes, Dr. Jawad. China is little nervous to challenge the US in security domain. And of course, the economy and the trade. This is the primary domain where China want to be focused more on and to challenge the US, and want to use this as one of the political instrument to create its influence. So China already has created the inroads in the Middle East, as you rightly mentioned about the Iranian relationship with China, and with all the Gulf states. They have the trade and economic relationship, which is maybe expanding, but is deliberately avoiding to come and to get any political diplomatic role even in Middle East. Yeah, we have an example that they had facilitated dialogue between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So even this was one of the test diplomacy for the China, that how it can effectively use its soft power, diplomatic power, resolving regional conflict. They did the similar kind of attempt in Afghanistan once, but they are still very nervous to use as an one instrument. So even if you look at both the solution, either this is the war or this is the peace, they are coming from the West. Either is the conflict or the Abraham Accords. China has no objection on both of the solution. Maybe they sometimes give only the statements, just condemning the violence is getting escalating in the region, but they have no objection on the Abraham Accords, which is initiated during the last Trump era, and now this is they maybe have tried to reinforce this plan again. So this is, I think, relying on looking towards China, it may not be the good approach right now. And I will also come back to my core argument that we have to look towards ourselves. We have to combine all our strengths if we want to resolve or to see this region more prosper and peaceful.
Thank you. And do you think a Chinese order is useful for the region?
Well, in certain cases, it has been useful enough to see China's role, especially when we are talking about the Syrian conflict. So I've read one of the research conducted by one of my colleagues in the department, which sees that China has been playing a role as a quasi-mediator in the case of resolving the conflicts between the political actors in Syria. So far, it has been successful because Chinese presence in the Middle East has always been positive. They always argue that they came to the Middle East with peace and they will stay so for a longer period of time. In fact, they always use the argument that Prophet Muhammad always, well, it's not the sayings of Prophet Muhammad, but there's a famous saying in the Islamic civilization that says that you should learn knowledge from China, as far as China. And this is something that has been a Chinese modality in doing their diplomatic and also economic activity in the Middle East. They are not even seen as an evil force. That's why a lot of Muslim countries are putting their belief in Chinese potential and establishing new global order, and this includes Indonesia as larger part of the Muslim world. And this includes also Malaysia, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. I see that Pakistan is also having a lot of projects with Chinese as well, with CPC going on. But coming back to the case of Middle East, I can see that if China is willing to push up for more, mediation role, that is in a way not being confronting American interests and not through the military means. I think China could contribute constructively to the establishment of peace. We also see that they have been successful in mediating all of the actors in the Palestinian political system. I mean, Fatah and Hamas has not been able to sit for many years, and China has successfully try to mediate all of the differences, and they have created new consensus. China's modality is very important in this case, and if China is willing to expand its strategy to mediate perhaps the Israeli and Palestinian conflict and larger conflict in the Middle East, I think would be better for the region as well, because so far, all of the solution provided in the Middle East is always very much Western-centric, and therefore we need to see a different point of view that would be having different vibe, also different alternative Western opinion as contrary to the Western-centric opinions. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us, and very useful insight and very informative insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.